Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.
Curtis Chin's 2023 memoir, Everything I Learned in a Chinese Restaurant, is a sweet, salty, and savory examination of the personal and political education Chin received about people, culture, and history while growing up in his family's Detroit restaurant. Kathy Burnette, owner of Brain Lair Books and community literacy champion, selected this book for our discussion, and I'm so excited to dig in. Kathy, thank you for saying yes again.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
And why this book?
Why this book? So in, I want to say March, Curtis Chin came to town for an event that Notre Dame was doing, and I got to meet him and chat with him, and I was just enamored with him. So.
Yeah, charming guy, wonderful
very
writer.
much,
I loved reading this book. So in the spirit of this book, what are we making today?
I'm going to make the Chinese almond chicken that he talks about in the book with some bok choy and a little bit of brown sauce.
Okay, sounds great. And I'm making the vegetarian version of that, a sort of kung pao tofu dish that's super spicy, which is one of the themes of the book. And then also a really crisp, simple lettuce salad with that ginger carrot dressing that you get sometimes at Chinese restaurants, and I'll show you how to make it. So, so let's get started. You're going to get started on the marinade.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to get started on the dressing here. So let's talk just a little bit about who Curtis Chin is, because he's more than just an author.
Well, I mean, he's an author, but he is also a documentarian.
Yes.
It's a hard word to say. He also has arranged his own book tour, so he helps other authors get marketing. So he's just really a great, that sounds
another
terrible,
literacy champion.
He's a literacy champion.
Yeah.
He introduced me to some great organizations that I should reach out to help us when we're bringing authors to town.
It's so wonderful that you met him, and we've got a picture of the two of them together, both beaming. It's so fabulous. So, and I'm getting started here. This is made in a Cuisinart. Start with fresh ginger. This is peeled, and a carrot, and then it's got some oils and seasonings in here, and we'll wear it for a little while and chill it, and then that's what will go on the top, this wonderful bright orange pop.
Mine's very simple. It's just egg white and some cornstarch, and then a little bit of almond oil. You could also use peanut oil if you want to do that, and just a little bit of water.
Okay, and a lot of these are pretty adaptable, which was one of the kind of themes in working in a Chinese restaurant, where you're adapting to the tastes of the community.
Right. And even though you have an extensive menu, a lot of the base are the same. So it makes it easy to add something new to the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually ours are going to be sister dishes, I think. So the book is a memoir, but it's got kind of an interesting organization. So I don't know if you want to talk about the table of contents just a little bit. It's an introduction to the thematic structure of the book.
Well, I love the way he did this. The whole, it's like a menu, basically.
Okay, yeah.
It starts with the tea, and then we have appetizers and soup, rice and noodles, main entrees, the fortune cookie.
Okay, great.
Just like in the restaurant.
Just like in the restaurant.
And this book, I just want to say quickly, is signed by Curtis.
Oh, man. Let's see.
It's signed.
Oh, thanks for supporting writers. It is true. You do. All right, my copy is from the library.
Hopefully you didn't sign that.
Yes, he did not sign that one. So it's a memoir that starts right at the, right at the beginnings of his life. I think he's about the same age as both of us, so it's kind of fun to.
I thought that was really exciting.
Interested in pop culture of the 70s and 80s, and I sort of loved how he talked about. In the 70s, there was a lot of conversation about latchkey kids.
Yes.
And he said, okay, there's a whole other genre, which is restaurant kids. All these kids who grew up in their parents' restaurants and, started to, this is kind of the theme of the book, how much he learned about food for sure, but also about people, right, when he was young.
Yes,
So,
yes. We were lucky in that we got to stay at school. They had like one of the first after-school programs, so we were there when we couldn't go home. So that was kind of
and
nice.
you grew up in a sort of similar neighborhood, but in Chicago.
Yes, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, in the projects actually. They were called the Washington Park homes. And it was right down the street from the school. There was like a little park and everything. So it was really, at least when I was growing up there, it was nice because it was just had been built.
Right.
So I remember that.
So a lot of parallels for you as you were reading about the community and
what was important at that time, like what was happening in the community at that time was very similar.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, including, there's a lot about history in here. So he talks, probably lots of you know about the Chinese Exclusion Act, but what he really gives us insight into is what that looks like in a multi-generational family. So the impact on his grandparents, on his parents, the kind of bicultural experience that he grew up with, and then experiencing the Detroit riots, which his parents told him about, and similar to some of the experiences in Chicago. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and one thing I mean, as every family, each generation has its own burden that it thinks you're going to face, and so teaches you that way. And what I liked was his dad seemed really open to new things, and I think that was really helpful.
Genius,
especially when we're looking at the riots there, and he decided to side with the African Americans, which wasn't usual in Chinese families.
There's
so
a really powerful moment in there where Chin describes, I guess his father telling him that when the riots were happening, their family restaurant and many other restaurants in Detroit put signs in their window that said, "We are your brothers." So you get, it's actually making my hair stand up to think about this moment, because his family felt very vulnerable, felt very precarious. But on the other hand, they were a locus of connection for immigrant families of all kinds, right, who came into the store.
And that was one of the themes I felt throughout the book, is that they were really about community.
Yeah, nice. Totally, yeah. So I'm going to let this run for a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it off, because you got to run it for about 2 minutes to get it super smooth. But there's a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, a little bit of rice vinegar, and this gets you a really smooth but also toothsome, if you could say that, dressing that's more than a dressing. It's actually some of the ingredients. And what's your chicken bathing in here?
It's bathing in, it's like a cornstarch and water mixture.
Okay. And you'll let that marinate a little bit, and then both of us will
It's about 15 minutes to marinate.
Have some dueling pans in the second half here. And I'm just gonna make a really simple salad here. This is very crisp romaine lettuce, and the only other ingredients are this beautiful dressing, which when it's smooth, is bright orange pop. So I'll wait to dress it until right before we serve it. And then it has this beautiful fresh mint on it as well. So it's it's got a little, sweet, spicy, maybe not savory, but we'll do savory in the second part. So let's talk a little bit more about other lessons that he learned. He sees people coming in. He sees his father navigating. If we think about his childhood, what else did he start to learn in that space? Working with different kinds of customers, for one thing, navigating
when he got to work in the difference between working in the front of the store and working in the back of the store. So even just restaurant management, he also learned that. Yeah. And that there were certain customers that would order the same thing all the time. So
just like all of us, probably, right?
Right. I do have my numbered dishes that I like when I go there. So I thought that was a fascinating behind. Yeah. But he also got to learn about the history of his parents and his grandparents at the same time that he was doing that. Yeah. So especially when he's working in the back, because he's working with his grandmother back there. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, who's slightly terrifying. So,
only slightly.
And he talks about, he learns how to cook both from his mother, who's a by-the-book person, and from his father, who is a, you got to get the feel of things. So there's lots of failed dishes.
But I also, the failed dishes, I believe, from his father gave him the confidence to try new things. So
Nice,
I thought that was really amazing, because that's not usually the case, right? You're like, oh, that turned out terrible, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, it instilled, like, just keep trying. Maybe this will be the one that works. And he picked up that from his dad. Let's try different things. And I think that makes a difference for him throughout the book.
Yeah, for sure. His father is an innovator. So, and I'm just going to start here doing a little bit of the vegetables for the saute in the second half here.
And I'm going to cut up some bok choy that we're going to use later too.
Okay. That sounds great. And this gives it a little crunch, a little color.
Yeah, well, the stems gives it a little bit of chewiness.
Okay,
more,
yeah, nice, yeah, little.
And then the crunch comes from the bottom part of it does give a little crunch. And just a mild flavor. It's really, I like a light tasting Chinese dish, and so this kind of gives us that. It brings that in.
Okay.
So you could use bamboo shoots if you wanted to use that instead.
Okay. Adapting.
Yes,
so,
and broccoli.
And we start to get just a little bit in the first part of the book about his burgeoning sense of sexuality and the worry about how he's going to manage that. So we're going to take a little break here and see some images from his website. Lots of interesting information there, including a couple documentaries, one of which is streamable on PBS. We will be right back. Kathy has been marinating some chicken here. Tell us the story of where your dish is right now.
Okay, so we've spent 15 minutes marinating the chicken and some cornstarch and water and salt and pepper.
Bath
so
there.
we're doing that, and now we also cut up the vegetables that we need. So we separated the stems from the leaves for the bok choy, and now it's time to cook it up. Oh, and I made the sauce. So we started making the brown sauce, and we're going to put those together. For this one.
And the dishes will be sister dishes, I think. Mine's the Kung Pao tofu has a similar sort of savory umami sauce thickened with cornstarch and a little bit of vegetables. Mine contrast a little bit, but this is two main dishes. You could make one for omnivores and one for, also omnivores. Everybody should eat tofu. There's a lot of tofu dishes in here. And this sauce starts with grating some both garlic and fresh ginger. I'm going to use this here and put some mussel into it. And do you want to get your pan hot so that you do your chicken
it's because
first.
we're using almond oil, we don't get it as hot as we would if we were using peanut oil.
Listen to you
because
when
the
you
burn
say you're not a
different.
cook.
I am a very good reader, though. I read that, and that's how I know.
Good.
So it does a little bit lower than normal.
Okay, that's great. And actually, both of us have talked about the recipes that will be posted for you. We found most of the ingredients. These are also these kinds of stir fries, which, if you have a wok, you could make both of these in a wok, are adaptable, just as Curtis Chin's father taught him to do. I'm going to put this in the base here.
I did enjoy him making different dishes, and they're trying really weird combinations.
Some of them sound, actively
really gross.
terrible.
Yes, like really gross. It's like, no, thank you. I will not try that one.
Super bad, yeah.
I mean, the good thing about this is you don't need as much oil as you would normally need to cook either, so that's also nice.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So when I did my tofu already here, it's just pressed tofu tossed with a little bit of cornstarch and salt. You can saute that in the pan first and take it out, sort of what you're doing with the chicken, but you can also bake it, which at 425 it's just so much easier, and then that's being done while your coffee's brewing.
It is my preference too. So, I do enjoy baking things.
Yeah, so that part's done. So
I'm not any good at it, but I enjoy it.
You say that. So let's dig into that. From the really as a child, he starts to realize that he is attracted to boys. He's noticing boys. He's noticing men. Some of the cooks in the kitchen. There's just the sweetest scenes where he's, watching one of the new chefs do knife work, and he's just watching his forearms. And it's just like
him.
Budding sexuality.
One of the young men who went to school with him that he thought everybody just loved.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize he was thinking differently until that person moved away. And he was
Yes.
so distraught, and he didn't understand, like, why was he so distraught and no one else was? And I think that was part of his starting to realize he was thinking about boys a little bit differently.
Yes, and so this is the 80s. This is for where he was in Detroit, he was closeted, and there's some really wonderfully hilarious. I think part of the charm is he's very self-deprecating, and so he's interested in American pop culture, of course. And so what is one of the top shows in the mid 80s?
The Family Ties.
Family Ties.
Was really big
And
back
so
then.
if you're
And
a closeted
he loved Alex
kid.
P. Keaton. Like, he thought of himself as the Asian Alex P. Keaton. So dressing the same way with
Oh
the
my
suits
gosh,
and things like
yes.
that. He really also felt that would help him feel differently. That if he leaned into this
That's right.
persona,
That's
that would
right.
help him. It just made him like he was deeply closeted, and he thought this was a good way to help him.
I know. You just
navigate that.
sort of ache for him. And of course, most of the images in that were breaking at that point, representations of gayness, were just
Yes.
completely intersecting with all of the fear and ignorance, frankly, about the start of the AIDS epidemic. And
Yes.
so not much incentive to come out, and he goes off to college.
He was afraid of
As
losing
a
his
young
family
Republican,
too,
yes.
right? So that was a big part of it. He wasn't sure how they would react to him being gay, being different. Like his role models that he'd seen and how they'd acted in the past, he just had a clear-cut picture of if it would be okay for him to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a hot pan. I'm going to put some oil in that
Well,
here.
this is going to take about 2 minutes to do first before we take it out.
I'm going to listen
So I
to
don't
some
know.
sizzle there, I
Yes,
think.
just a little.
This is seasoned with black vinegar and a little rice wine. There's my, let's see, it's got some white pepper, and there was the cornstarch in there, and then I'm going to use my favorite little bouncy whisk to mix this together. So that innocent chicken just sizzling away there.
Hey, Bernice.
Yeah, we named the chicken Bernice. She
my
had a good life, and now
did.
she's
She did have a
cooking
good
away
life.
there. So this is a nice
She was ready.
thick. She was ready.
My
Nice thick
conversation
sauce
with
here.
her showed that she was ready
Okay.
for that.
Actually, I'm realizing I'm going to turn this off for a minute while I
That's
cut
what I did
some
mine too.
cut some vegetables. So yours has bok choy. Mine has some.
I can smell the spice.
I know. Well, just wait. So this also, you can make this. Kung Pao is supposed to be hot and spicy. So this has some. You can adjust. In my sample run, I made it so spicy, I drove my spouse and I out of the house.
Well, that's what I like about the one I'm doing is it's mild.
Okay. And of course, you can spice it up.
And that way we have the sister dishes. So here's a spicy
yes,
version.
All right, very nice. So he goes off to college as a young Republican. Again, it's so sweet. He's so, kind of charmed by his extremely irritating, he was involved in student government, but as often happens when you go to college, you start to, broaden your horizons. You meet people.
As you meet more people.
Yeah.
Yes. I do love that he met 2 young women who started asking him questions, and when he had to talk to them about different things, that made him think a little bit deeper about, is this okay? Can I actually be someone? Yeah. Can I be myself?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And after all of his fears about coming out, what happens when he actually does come out to one of his friends? Remember, it's sort of a non. She's like,
Oh, so
well,
it
yeah,
didn't
sure.
mean anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
okay.
like, oh,
I
sure.
thought, when you were asking me that, I'm like, did I miss something? Because I
Yeah, no,
remember
she's
it
like,
not
yeah,
being
sure.
a big deal.
And I think one of them said, yeah, I'm gay too.
Yes, he was welcomed into the circle of everyone else who
Yeah.
was experimenting and learning things about themselves while they were in college.
Yeah.
Which he was not expecting that.
And also, he didn't have. I think when I think about the work that this book might do for, a young reader who can be assured, like, the world belongs to you. You are, you should feel welcome.
Yes.
You should feel,
Yes,
it's
yes.
extremely sweet.
I do, and that it may not explode, right? That you can find your people and they will accept you as you are because they love you.
Yeah, nice.
And I don't think we realize that when we go to college.
Yeah, we don't know yet. So so he has very positive experiences. Goes to San Francisco. So I put my my hot peppers in here. I'm going to put the tofu back in here.
I'm taking the chicken out so that I could cook the vegetables.
Okay, and I'm going to put some scallions in here, and then you'll see the sauce really does just thicken really fast when you've got cornstarch in it.
Quickly.
So
It moves very quickly.
I'm
I'm
going
going to pour
get
it
this
in
going,
here.
blister
I don't
the
want as much of that in here.
vegetables a little bit here. Okay, so plenty of hot pepper. Woo, baby. All right, now we're cooking with gas.
We are cooking with gas.
I know, literally. So he goes to San Francisco, has his first kiss, super sweet, yeah. Doesn't turn into the love of his lifetime, but
I was afraid of that scene.
I know,
wanted to
yeah.
make sure that
I
it
know
was
that he would
okay
be
for him and that he would, and not turn him away from that life. And so I think that also settled something within him when he had them, like, oh, I'm still okay.
Yeah.
This happened, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It was really lovely. And then from being a political science major, you adjust these spice to what you'd like. Here comes the sauce here, so you'll see just how quickly this thickens. And you want to cook it for, even though, it pretty much thickens on contact here, you want to, I'm going to turn this down just a little, cook it for at least 2 minutes so that the cornstarch, so you get rid of that kind of cornstarch rawness. But
mine is cooking the bok choy stems until they brighten.
Okay.
Apparently, that's something that happens in cooking. So that's what I'm doing. And it does change to a little brighter green, so I know that they are ready for the stems. Because the stems just have to wilt.
Okay.
Nothing big with that one.
Okay, that's great. And then you're going to put your chicken back in there. So we follow him. The book really takes him up to adulthood. He takes a poetry class, discovers writing and a writing community, and that's kind of where he has landed now.
And that was so surprising to me as I was reading that he would be a poet. I didn't get that sense from him growing up.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really exciting to learn that he has something else. Because you think of poets and you think of just Luz. He's a political science major.
Yeah.
He's a young Republican. That just doesn't seem to
But he
jive
got
with that
over it.
image. Yeah, he
So,
did.
and now, of course, a filmmaker. So we're going to take a little break and show you some images from his really fun Instagram. And there's also a picture in there of Kathy and our author together. We'll be right back. Kathy, this has been so much fun making dishes inspired by everything I learned in a Chinese restaurant. What did you make here?
I made almond chicken with bok choy, and you gave me some rice to go with it.
All right.
You can also use noodles. I did bring
that's
noodles,
true.
but
Oh, nice.
I saw that you
okay.
had the rice.
A little starch, and I did
Yeah.
a very similar dish, but with tofu, kung pao tofu, and then just a classic, simple Chinese salad with a really, I guess this is the sweet part. This is the savory and salty ginger
We're the
carrot
salty.
dressing. We are salty. So we hope you'll read this memoir. If you enjoy it, what else would you recommend?
I would recommend Michelle Zonzer's Crying in H Mart, which is a memoir also about food and belonging. Takes
Okay.
place in New York that I loved, and also From a Whisper to a Rallying Cry, which is the story of Vincent Chin, which takes place. Curtis talks about that a lot and how his dad stood up, and I think that would give people some background about that story.
Okay, and that's also one of the documentaries that
Yes, yes.
that our author was involved with. So he's somebody to really get to know. If you're on Instagram, I really recommend that you follow him and just watch what he's doing. Not only, I mean, of course, he's promoting his book, but he's really promoting Asian American writers and is such a champion. There are such warm images of him with school children.
I love seeing it, and he tries to make sure he takes a picture at every place he goes that shows everybody. So
Yes,
you can see all that too. I love how he does that.
You see a lot of pictures of him with his face big, and then a whole bunch of cheering people in the background. So, and he reminds us of the importance of places like your bookstore, Brain Lair Books, where you really prioritize helping us meet authors, get to know authors who we might miss.
Yes.
So we hope you will read this book. I loved it. Thank you so much. This is just always a blast to be in the
Always a
kitchen with
blast.
you. So we hope you will read widely, cook adventurously, as I think we did today. Let's have a little toast to you, to this wonderful memoir, and to you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Dinner and a Book.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.